I threw another curveball at you, right?
Yep.
Every week I'm going to try to make it different. That way
Yep.
we keep you on your toes. Okay, so Ruben brought up something to me the other day I'd never heard of before. And it was this idea of defensive coverage triangle that receivers can use to anticipate the coverage that they're going to get. So
Yeah.
I'm going to let Ruben describe what that is.
Yeah. So thinking about, when you're lining up pre-snap, obviously this is all pre-snap stuff that can give you, essentially what this does is helps you eliminate what coverages they could be in or figure out what coverages they have to be in based on alignment, based on positioning.
So how can you do that?
Yeah.
And what do you mean, like, when you're saying which coverages? You're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6.
So how do you know that?
Yeah. So if you look at a base picture of fundamentally what cover 3 looks like or what cover 2 looks like as relates to the corners positions and the safeties positions.
Okay.
They kind of give you these shapes and patterns. So,
Okay. So what those like?
cover 4, since sometimes is straight line across.
Right.
If they're all the same depths. And,
Sure.
Cover 4 is quarters, drop back. It could be kind of this plateau,
Right.
essentially as well too. If they're, bailing, if they're press bail.
So that would look more like an umbrella, right?
Yeah.
Rather like a shell.
Yep.
Some sort.
Yep. So that that too high look can kind of give you that, and obviously corners alignment. And then when you go into one high.
Hey, linebackers, pay attention. I know that it sounds like this is for receivers. It's not. You're
Yeah.
about to get a glimpse inside the head of the receivers so you can know what they're thinking. Pay
Yep.
attention.
Yeah. So thinking about one high looks. So obviously if you got cover 1 or cover 3.
Okay,
you got,
one high. Yeah, let's define
Yeah.
that because I got
Yeah.
linebackers. They're not.
Yeah. So one high
Not
look
smart
is
as you.
one high safety. Everything else is underneath.
Okay, one high safety. So the quarterback, the receiver looks out, and who's he looking for?
Safety, free safety.
Okay, so he's looking for deep guys, and
Yeah.
basically what he wants to know is how many guys are deep
Yep.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does that help him know anything?
Yep. So just before we jump into that,
Okay.
so just base. Oh, my God. So like if it's cover 1, it's going to be some sort of pyramid,
Okay,
like a triangle.
right.
Cover 3, it could be straight across.
Now, why is that? Why would it be a triangle? Because there's only one guy deep.
One guy deep and
two guys
two
shallow.
press corners.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And that makes your
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Cover 3 could be straight across, just like with quarters. They're playing their deep quarters.
Could
Cover
be,
3, they're playing their deep thirds.
Right.
So if it's straight across,
So
it
three
could
straight
be.
across?
Yeah, it could be cover 3. Also, it could be a triangle as well if they're same thing.
Right.
Press bail and then drop into their thirds.
Right.
So just having that straight line, how many 3 or 4, triangle, 1 or 3, plateau, 4 or 2.
Okay.
So it kind of just gives you an easier, boom, I see it. It's got to be this.
So you get this shape. Sorry. All right. So let's say you get this shape.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's not a very good shape, is it? But that, right, where you got safety, corner.
Yep.
What is that?
It's got to be cover 4 too.
4 or 2. Because and how do you know it's 4 or 2, and why not 3 or 1?
So pre-snap, I'm not, we're not talking about
Right.
them shifting and moving around and stuff, but just if I look at it pre-snap, play clock's at 1, ball's about to be snapped.
You got to make up your mind.
Yeah, you gotta make your mind at some point.
So to me, and because it's brand new to me, maybe it's the shapes are clicking something in my head. It seems to me like the more back end wide the polygon is, the shape, right? So in this case, we're making the top of a hexagon,
Right.
And in the case of potentially cover 3 or 1, we have an actual triangle.
Yeah.
And then in the case of 3 or 4, we have a potential straight line.
Potential. Yep.
So really, you can just talk about the shape of the defensive backfield. Triangle.
Plateau.
What would you call it? Plateau or like semi-hexagon.
A mesa.
A mesa. A mesa table, a piece of floor. Right. So that's really cool. So like, really, there's only 3 shapes in general.
Yeah, straight line, and then obviously pre-snap you could get this weird looking shape.
Right.
You could get that.
And then you're thinking 3
Yeah,
or
we're thinking
split field?
Yeah, you're thinking 3, because obviously you might get he might not be on a hash.
Right.
He might be veering over, so here's the other weak safety.
Yep.
He's in the box, so it's got to be 3.
Right.
or one
Yep.
potentially.
Or even, you know, if this is, for example, the boundary and this is the field, and the safety is pushed to the field some, so it almost looked like he's a half field safety.
Yeah, quarter half.
But he's not necessarily, right?
Yeah.
He could just be because that's where the field is, so he's over there. But,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
So that's how I'm kind of teaching my guys to kind of look at just in general pre-snap, not getting complex, not getting, hey, if you got a triangle, 3 or 1, if you got plateau, 4 or 2, straight line, 3 or 4.
cool.
You could, depending on how deep or shallow the straight line is, could be 0
Right.
potentially.
Could be. Probably ruled that out most of the time.
Yeah. So that's kind of
But
just
if you're wrong
yeah.
and you didn't look, shame on you, right? Like if it's
Yeah.
0 and you get a hot,
Yeah.
and you're just like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And then even within that, the corners will generally tell you, can confirm for you what the coverage is. Because sometimes the safeties, they'll be moving and dropping. And
Safeties are a little more heady and usually
Yeah.
more mindful of disguises.
yeah, but the corners from pre-snap to like early post-snap, they'll pretty much tell you what it is, whether they're pressing or they're funneling you inside or they're off and bailing.
Okay.
You can kind of get an idea. So that's kind of just base. So then even from there, what we're talking about with the passing triangles or defensive triangles. So let's say I'm playing Z. You want to know the relationship between the corner who's on you, the nearest safety, and the nearest linebacker.
Right.
And from there, you can even diagnose what's going on that half of the field, who's responsible for what.
Right.
And then from there, understanding what route you have and understanding the concept. So wideouts don't get caught up in just knowing what you have to do, but understanding what the offense is trying to do.
Ruben, you say this so often that I feel like it's important.
Yeah.
And this doesn't go for just receivers. You can't understand your job, your position, how you fit into the world unless you understand the surroundings.
Yep.
Right? You can't have an object without the background.
Yep.
So really important to understand why this matters.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. So if you know that, if you know what the slot guy is doing, what the back is doing to your side of the field, you understand the quarterback's read and potentially where he wants to go and where he's trying to throw you open to.
It makes everybody on the field a point guard.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a huge advantage. If everybody on the basketball court saw the court the way that a point guard sees the court, there'd be a lot less need for verbal communication. It would just happen, right?
It just happens. Yeah. Yep. And that comes with reps and film study and all that. But let's say, for example, I'm looking at it. So in this scenario, the corners, less than 5, linebackers head up on the slot guy, and then the nearest safety is over number 2. So what that tells me is potentially the linebacker maybe he's gonna have to cover the flats. The safety's lined up over number 2, so he's probably got anything deep half,
Right.
or deep quarters potentially.
Good.
And then the corner could be deep quarters of his half, or he could be first thing out to number 2. Linebacker could blitz.
Okay.
But in this look though, like it's probably some sort of quarters, and he's playing hook curl.
Right.
Potentially.
Let me ask you this. So we can also, we talked about the whole shell as a shape, right? All the safeties and corners.
Yeah.
But is it fair to say that we can also look at half field shapes, right? So if we're just looking at, say, the strong side of this offensive formation, where the Y and the Z are, and we get this shape here, what I'm interested in, because remember we're talking again. You mentioned before, this is pre-snap. Might be 1 second left on the play clock. Ball snap. I don't have time to think about this. I just need to see the shape.
To see the shape, yeah.
How does this shape, which for those of you who can't see, it looks a bit like
It's a right triangle.
I think it's an isosceles triangle. It's an isosceles right triangle.
Yeah.
Probably something like. Well, I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah.
I think it's a 1-1 square root of 2. But but my point is, how does this shape differ from this shape?
Like if this shape was over here.
Yeah. So let me maybe explain.
Yeah.
So what I did was I moved the outside linebacker out away from the core. Now he's the apex between the Y and the Z. Okay. So he just moved closer to the corner. So I shrunk the base of that leg of the triangle probably by half.
Half, yeah.
Right. And then didn't change the other
two.
leg. So the hypotenuse is less, right? Because of the virtue of this being shorter.
So in this scenario, he's here.
I don't know why there's no hypotenuse, but yeah, this linebacker moves over here just to make this leg shorter.
Shorter, yep. And then the safety still.
And the safety will be. Let's make the safety there, so we have that triangle.
Yep. I mean, so if I see that, and we're in a 2x2 look, right? I'm thinking backer's probably responsible for the flats.
That's got to be it.
It's got to be it.
Why else would they?
Why would he get out that wide? Like, he's not blitzing. Can't blitz from there.
That's it. I think as you were telling me about this, I started thinking about how can a defender use this information to trick the offense or to know. And one of the ways is that I think, as you were describing, the first thing I would look for, based on what I know about defenses, is the alignment of the outside backer. The reason is, if an outside backer, if in higher number coverages, 3 and 4 especially, in 3 and 4, a linebacker, at least one linebacker, is going to have to cover the flat.
Yeah.
And that's obviously he's in a pickle there because he's got run fits against the run, and if it's a pass, he's got to get all the way out as far as possible. So he's usually going to split the difference so that he's in between his job.
Yeah.
If he didn't have the flat, then there would be no reason for him to line up wide, right? So if he's lined in tight, you can almost book it that he doesn't have the flat, unless he's on the boundary side and all that, right? But if a linebacker is far away from the flat, he's probably not the flat player.
Yeah.
So you look at that corner for confirmation, like you said. If that corner is 10 yards off, now you're confused because you expect him to be 5 yards off or in press playing 2. Right? So the higher the number of the coverage, the wider the backer should be pre-snap.
Pre-snap, yeah, unless they're playing some weird 2-man or
if they're doing
something.
jet disguising.
Yeah, or disguising, yeah. But
you don't see a lot of that in high school.
Yeah, no. But even for college guys, maybe you can speak on that. I'm sure pros are doing all types of stuff. Changing looks and
I'll tell you what. A lot of times, though, guys are changing looks randomly. Not like they don't really understand what it does for the offense to see him in that position versus that. They just know it's movement.
Yeah.
But if understanding this would make that movement more well-informed and more effective, and more efficient, you wouldn't be.
So, so to go even deeper, so, like, let's say we've got a basic dagger concept called, so, like, outside Z's got the dig and the Y's got seam, and let's say back over here's got the flat.
Okay.
So if I'm the Z, and let's go off the second one you drew. So if he's backer's apexed, corner's still at the same level, and safety's over a little bit, I know that the backer is responsible for the flat. So probably one, he might try to reroute the seam just to give the safety some help, and then get to his flats because obviously the back is carried out. So I do know that there's a window somewhere in there when I run my dig.
Right.
I just need to make sure that I beat the corner.
Right.
So whatever he's playing, outside there, inside there, doesn't matter. I just need to get to that spot as efficiently as possible.
Right. Which is almost always going to be an inside release if you can. Right?
If you can, And then knowing that the seam, safety's going to have to take that because that's the deep. So, like, it's kind of like there's 3 areas of the field that have to be covered. The flats, the middle, and deep.
Yep. We think about it as like if we're doing a box, if we're boxing a trio of players with 4 guys, we say low inside, low outside, high inside, high outside.
Yeah.
And if there's only 3 guys, it's just low inside, low outside, first high.
Yeah. Like, so there's some vacancies. So there's like me knowing that I have to run a dig. I know that there should be a window there.
And where should that window be?
Because there's a flat guy.
Right.
So that's his responsibility.
So there's really 2 there's lots of windows, but the final position of the defenders in these zones. So for example, if it's cover 2, right?
It would end up like looking something like this almost. The end result. So there's the flat.
Yeah.
He's covering the deep vertical that turns into the dig, and then he's out with the seam. So there's kind of like this, I don't know. Yeah. Super flat triangle.
Right. So to me, it seems like.
So now the open void.
Yeah, where are the voids, right? And how does
all in here.
I guess I need to ask that question too. Like, how does the angle that the quarterback has to the receiver, that changes things too, because now I'm not just throwing through the field vertically this way, but across this well.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be able to fit. But it seems to me like cover 2, cover 1 are going to have lots of defenders underneath. It's going to be really hard to find a window underneath. You know that there are much fewer defenders on the back end. So in cover 2, there's only 2 versus 5 intermediate ones.
Yeah.
Right? Well, 5. So as the guy who's running the dig is coming across, he's going to be open for moments in time. Right? So one of the ways that I would think about this is if you're getting cover two, if you see cover two, run this dig deeper than normal. Okay,
To clear the flat
to clear the
player.
first level, yeah. Because if the quarterback doesn't have to fit it in the window if there's enough of enough cushion
Space,
between
yeah.
you and the first level of pass defenders. So if you can put any loft on it, that would be helpful. So now if you run that dig at 18 and you can still stay away from the safeties at 18, you're going to have a huge window right in the middle of the field. And even if the Mike backer is in your way, 18 yards deep, you can get over his head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can't make a play on that. Yeah.
Right.
And then even knowing like, obviously post snap, once you go on the dig, you can see what's in front of you, so you know if there's a robber safety or if there's another guy filling a void, replacing or something.
Let me ask you this:
potentially.
could a receiver does a receiver have the freedom, or even maybe they encouraged or taught to climb in their route if they get that? Like in other words, they have very heavy underneath zone coverage, right? And so as they make their break, they see that there's no actual windows horizontally.
Yeah.
But if I get it far enough away, we can go over the top of
Yeah.
them.
So I would say one, from that question, so he's asking, can I climb more vertically?
Yeah. Get deeper.
So one, I would say, what did the corner do when he took off the ball? Did he zone turn? Or did he man turn?
So let's say let's say.
But I'm just saying,
I know.
you want to think through that.
But what I'm saying is, let's say we're past the corner. We're already on our way across the field.
Yeah,
We've
so-
beaten the leverage, and so
Yeah.
now we've got 45 yards of field.
Yeah.
Right. But there's no gaps along the way.
So I'm just saying like to get to that. So like the thing you want to think about is one, is someone following me or is no one following me?
Right.
If someone following me, probably don't want to climb because
Right. But it could be two man.
could be.
Probably not. But
Could be, but like for the most part, like if there's someone behind you, you want to run away from it without drifting,
right, 'cause they'll undercut you.
You'll undercut you, right? You always want to tell my guys work negative back to the ball. Flat is good, working back negative is better.
Right.
But if you get a zone turn and he's eyes inside, then by all means, like I would climb because you know that he's responsible for that. He's not responsible for anything inside,
Right,
so
right.
someone else is doing that.
Is this also where a stem can help you determine that? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you do an inside stem and he doesn't chase you down.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let me ask you this. So I was just thinking about this in terms of there's two different ways to think about these windows. Right? One is where are they at any given time, and then the other thing is where will they be as people move and shift around?
Yeah.
Because these players.
Then I think another thing on that too is how much or where have you practiced him hitting you at?
Right.
Like so it might be that there's 1, 2, 3 windows, but by the time you get to the third window, he's already thrown
it.
the check down or he's went to the next read.
Does that affect your route though? Like you can't abandon the route to do something else because you're within a concept, right? Mm-hmm. So if you know that you're running out of time before he has to throw that ball and you can't find a window, is it on you to sit down or you just got to keep running the route?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the coverage. Like obviously, if it's man, you keep running. That's the thing. Like if you ever run a route versus man coverage, don't ever stop running.
Right.
If it's zone, then that's when you try to find windows.
And whenever appropriate, work back to the ball.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's the other thing I was going to say. You know, man coverage, a corner in man coverage presents the same problems as linebackers in zone coverage, which is that they're between you and the ball, right? So I'm talking about deeper routes.
Yeah.
And so if it's zone coverage, right, you probably want to run away from those guys who are between you and the ball. If it's man coverage, that coverage is much tighter. Now the only chance for you to, because you're not going to get it over his head and still get it directly, right? So you got to work back to the ball. So this is where maybe on a dig, if he's lockstep with you, right, but you get the inside break, it's pretty important to make sure he doesn't regain the inside position, right? So that might be a case where, you, like you said, you work back to the ball, but you never stop running.
Yeah. So yeah, it just depends on because there's like you said, there's different windows, but it's like if you get to a third window, unless it's scramble drill, like probably not hitting you, unless he's just not a good quarterback and throwing the ball late,
or unless you have the best offense.
But yeah, I mean, but by all means, like always keep running. If the play's alive, like don't stop thinking that usually I get the ball right here, but it hasn't come yet, so I'm gonna stop. And
now there are exceptions, right? Like,
there's
you want to sit
exceptions.
down in soft spots.
Yeah,
but at some point you got to uncover and start going, right?
Like if you look up and you see he's still alive and well, like
how else can you use these shapes?
Yeah.
How, like, let me ask you this. Let's say you get press corner, all right, You get what looks like middle of the field safety.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now you're kind of thinking, geez, this is either man,
Mm-hmm.
right, because he's press, or he's going to bail before the snap,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's all it can be, unless that safety is rolling down, over, and this one's shifting back. I guess my question is there anything else that you can glean from a quick snapshot of the field pre-snap to help you anticipate not only where your defenders are going to be, but when the ball is going to be thrown based on when
The only other thing I'm thinking about, and you might be trying to get me to get to this point, but I think it's where you are on the field. So, like, are you on the right hash? Are you on the left hash? Are you left middle, right middle, middle? Because usually, at least in high school, most coaches are going to call. They're going to call. Well, one, they're going to call the coverage to the strength. So, like, if there's a tight end or an extra, if it's trio, if it's a running back on this side, they're gonna cover 3 to that.
Right.
Same thing, like if you're in the boundary, typically like they'll
like 42, like a cover 6.
Yeah.
You go 4 to the field.
You go 4 to the field and 2 to the boundary. Yeah. So like just film study and understanding like why would you do that? Why does that make sense? Oh, there's more field over here because you're on the right hash. So
you want more deep.
You want more deep safeties. Oh, we're tightening the boundary, so you want to compress
Right.
the holes in the windows.
Right.
So I think
use the sideline.
Yeah, use the sideline. I think that's another thing that can help you, just understanding where you are on the field and knowing how the defense is going to shift to that.
Yep. That's especially important in high school because of the hashes. You know what I mean? They're just
so wide.
It's like, I mean, it's a whole different game on the boundary side than it is on the field side.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, NFL hashes are a little closer, so it's less of a.
I'll tell you what drives a defender and defensive coach crazy is flat slants to the field. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, there's so many windows, and it's so quick, and because it's climbing, it's not like you just have to build one wall, right?
Yeah.
Like it's changing levels all the way. So I always hate that, and I always told the corners, absolutely always, but especially if you're to the field, especially if you're to a single receiver to the field, you've got to take the inside away. You have to take the inside away. Yeah. There's just too many inside windows there.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to ask you for a cheat code now.
Got about a minute.
Yep. Knowing what you know now and what you just taught me, if I'm a linebacker, let's say you were just whispering in a linebacker's ear, because I do that all the time. It's weird, but you want to give him a tip, right? Here's what I understand about receivers. So here's what you should look for on this play. Anything like that for a linebacker based on this? Like in other words,
I would tell linebacker there's generally in most concepts there's going to be somebody in the flats, somebody deep, and somebody in some middle hole, kind of like high, low, middle.
Right.
Most of the time.
My saying has always been, and it's not mine. Coach Crean, Denny Crean, greatest coach ever, taught me: if there's something in front of you, there's something behind you.
Yeah.
If there's something coming in, there's something going out.
Yeah.
And that's true. I mean, that's the whole idea of past concepts is to get
high, low,
spacing,
left, right.
Right. Yeah. To put people in conflicts. So that's a really good point. Knowing that someone dragging across shallow underneath is probably to get you to bite up on it, because they're just trying to create space. So they can do that with bait. They can do that with separation.
Yeah.
So understanding the way that the offense thinks about your alignments.
Yeah, like most good offensive coordinators are going to call stuff where it's like that high, low, left, right. So just
we notice that the slot player tends to play in much tighter than an apex, even when he has the flat. Let's throw that flat all day. You know, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can never rest. You don't realize. Listen, defenders, linebackers, self-scout. Don't forget to self-scout once in a while. That means make sure you're not doing something in the games that's telling the other side what your whole team is doing. Right?
Yeah, where you're going.
You're giving it away. You're Benedict Arnold.
Yep. And then for wideouts, don't just assume pre-snap because they can move and stuff, but just use this as a guide of like to have a general idea, and then obviously hold our conversation post-snap. On how we can talk about that next time maybe, but just give yourself a chance pre-snap to understand what's going on, but don't 100% like that's what it is.
Yeah, just to get a sense, anticipate, but don't guess.
Yep.
Right. I think that's what it comes. All right. So the moral of the story for this show, this is episode 4, in case you guys didn't hear at the beginning. Moral of the story is know thyself, but also know thy enemy. Right.
Yep.
What a moral. I think that comes from The Art of War.
Art of War.
Yeah, Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu.
Yeah.
All right.